Hey guys, so I know last week and this week you guys have spent some time setting up your writer's notebooks. And I wanted to share with you, this is my writer's notebook. I've actually had this thing for a really, really long time. And I think maybe in a previous video, I think I shared it with you, but I think a writer's notebook is something that's really, really special. I collect a lot of things in here. So I've made lists of possible topics. Which is one way that good writers begin planning for what they're going to write. These are just pictures of my family because I know you're probably curious about that. So this is my son Braden when he was a baby. I started this notebook in 2008 and my son was born in 2007. So you can imagine he was a little bitty tiny thing when I first started. So, and then there's Taylor. I have a daughter too, but she's much older now. She's 8 years old, almost 8 years old now. And so she just has a little picture here. I need to probably update it and add more of her. But moving on. So in today's lesson, I want to talk to you a little bit about brainstorming and planning ideas for what you want to write. So I know that you guys saw a graphic organizer that looked like this, okay? A personal narrative. Tell your story. So tell us your story, okay? And a personal narrative is exactly what it sounds like. It's personal to you because it's all about you, and it's a narrative. A narrative is just simply a story, okay? And most of these stories are told from your point of view. So you use words like I, we, us, okay? Because it comes from your point of view. And so one of the things you could do is you can use a graphic organizer like this if you want to. Some writers do very well with something like this, where you think about your topic and you give it a title. And then you say what happened, where did it happen, when did it happen, and who was with you, okay? And then you think about your beginning, a detail, and a detail, and a detail, and then an end. This is one way of doing that. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a graphic organizer like this, and if it works for you, I highly recommend that you use it, okay? There are other ways. So first of all, you want to brainstorm a topic. Sometimes it's hard for us to pull a story right off the top of our heads. So sometimes it's great to have a list of things that you can pull from at different times. So these are some things that I wrote down a long time ago. What I'm most proud of. The things I'm not so proud of. So remember when I told you that story about my friend Rochelle? I remember. So that was one of the topics that I pulled from that time that I stole a ring in the store when I was really young. Okay, so it's always nice to keep a list of possible topics. So you know how in the discussion last week you guys listed out some things that you could possibly talk about. So I want to encourage you to open up your writer's notebook, put down today's date, and just start yourself a list of possible topics, okay? Long-term goals that I would like to reach, I could write about that. I could write about good times. I've got lots of good times. When I was a kid, I summers at the lake with my grandparents, riding horses, and growing up out in the country. You know, I was a country girl. Some of the best life events, okay, like getting married or birthday parties or worst life events. You know, my mom died whenever she died about 7 years ago, and that was not a fun experience for me. But I could write about that in a personal narrative. So a time when someone made you feel better, made me feel better when I was upset. So there's always a time where somebody has made me feel better. These are just a list. So starting out by just thinking of a list of possible things that you could write about is one way to help you get started in the process of writing a personal narrative. So I have lots and lots of rough drafts in here. If you notice, I start my rough drafts out, and I kind of like to write in cursive because my hands get tired, and it's easier for me to write in cursive. But I always make sure I skip lines on my rough draft, because that way whenever I make adjustments or when I want to make revisions, it's easier for me to do that. And I think I have an example in here too. Heart maps are a really great way of generating ideas. You think about the things that are in your heart. So my husband's name is Alex and my son's name is Braden. And at the time we had a dog named Shiloh, but guess what? Shiloh passed away. So that's actually something I could talk about. I could talk about a story with Shiloh if I wanted to. Then this is a more recent one, baby number 2, someday healthy. These are all really important things to me. Here's another list of possible topics. So a time when a student gave me a beautiful rock and it was purple. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten all about that. I remember one time when I was teaching years ago, one of my students brought me a beautiful rock that she painted a picture on herself. I still have that rock to this day, but I forgot all about it. And now that I'm looking back at my possible topics, this is awesome. And look, you see how old this is? But I could still write about every single one of these. Okay, and look, and now I'm seeing that her name was Sandy Wynn. Oh, I remember about Hurricane Ike. I wrote all about Hurricane Ike when that happened. Fierce wonderings, things you wonder about. Okay, so these are just some examples of things that I like to put in here. And so I think writer's notebooks are super, super important. And I hope that you, and look at this. This is the messiest handwriting. This is an activity I used to do. I loved doing these activities. So I used to set a timer with my class. And the idea was to just shut your brain completely off and just write whatever came to your head, no matter what it was. So that's probably why my handwriting is so terrible in these pictures. But I got all kinds of good stuff down. You'd be very surprised. Poetry. So keep in mind, making lists of possible topics is one way to get started. Well, then once you choose your topic, it's important to start planning for it. Okay? So I'm going to think about which one I want to write about. Let's see. Okay. I think I'm going to go with the one that I told the story about in one of my previous videos about that time when I made a bad choice. Okay? So one way that I like to plan is I like to think about, I like to organize things and make a little list of the things that I don't want to forget. So I'm going to put today's date. I am a big date person. I think it's always important to include the date. And I'm going to call this the bad decision. Okay. Now this is just going to be a list, and this is one way that I like to plan, okay? If you're using a graphic organizer like this, this is perfectly fine. So we can call this the bad decision, okay? Either way, it works, okay? So what happened? Well, unfortunately, I stole a ring. Where was I? I was in the mall. When did it happen? This one was when I was, let's see, how old was I? I was probably maybe 12 when I was 12. Who was with you? My friend at the time, her name was Rochelle, and my mom. Okay, so I can do the same thing here. I stole a ring. And I hate that, so I'm going to put a sad face there because I want to make sure that when I'm writing out my narrative that I get across the fact that I really am not proud of this and it really made me sad. And I was at the mall when I was 12. See, and the truth of the matter is I'm not really sure if I was 12 or not, but it's okay to just kind of pick an age and go with it, okay? Because my readers aren't going to know the difference, and it's really okay. I can't remember if I was 12 or not. I know I was around that age. And who was with me? My friend Rochelle and my mom. Okay, and also, you know what? This was also right before school started too. So when I was 12, and it was also when, right before school started. So it was summertime. Okay. Now notice, I'm just jotting some things down, okay? It doesn't have to be beautiful, and it doesn't have to be perfect. The idea is just to get your notes and to get your thoughts down on paper. There's nothing wrong with it being a little bit messy, and it's okay if you want to come in here and add things that you want to remember to include, okay? That's why I put the sad face. I want to make sure that my readers understand that I really feel terrible about it and that I actually made it right. And I want to put that down here at the bottom, that I ended up making it right. And I learned a huge lesson. Okay. I learned a huge lesson. What else do I want to include? I remember I want to talk about we did have lunch that day. Just some little minor details, because remember over here, you have your beginning and detail and detail and detail, and those details are really important when it comes to writing. Okay, so we had lunch. What else did we do? Oh, that's right. I want to make sure that the reader understands that I was there to spend my allowance. So some of you guys might understand that. You may actually get an allowance at home too. And also I remember it was a long drive to the mall because we lived all the way out in the country. And anytime we wanted to go to a mall, it was kind of far away. So you were kind of committed for going for the whole entire day. Okay. So this is just me brainstorming some things that I want to remember about writing about the time I made a bad decision. So today what I want you to do is I want you to open your writer's notebook and find what works for you. If you like using this graphic organizer, you can find a way to post it in your journal. You can just tape it in there like this. Or if you want to draw it out, you can. Sometimes kids like to draw it out on their own. Or if you like to make just a little list, once you've chosen your topic. So first of all, choose your topic. Once you choose your topic, give it a name. Then make yourself a little list of all the things that you want to include in your personal narrative story. You can use this graphic organizer if that works for you, or you can also just make a list inside your writer's notebook. Okay? So have some fun, and I can't wait. I'm hoping that maybe a little bit later on this week, one of you will share with me some of your topics. I think I'm really excited about that. And maybe we can start writing a rough draft and share with each other, because that is what writing is all about. It's all about communicating and sharing what we write. Good luck and have fun.